Hello, Cat Learners. I'm Jenny. I have Dylan with me. Hello, Dylan.
Hi there.
And today we're going to talk about communicating by email. Now, we've already spoken about some of the precautions to take when accessing online resources, but today we're going to focus more on the practicalities of using emails. And so my first question to Dylan is going to be, what email applications are useful?
Well, I think the first thing to say about email is that email has become so much a part of our lives that all applications are tending to be pretty much the same, and they all offer the same kind of features and functionality. Whether they are cloud-based services like Yahoo or Hotmail or Gmail, or whether they are sort of localized services, so perhaps Microsoft Exchange as the primary example there, services that your company or your organization host themselves. They pretty much all offer the same kinds of benefits. You can get your own address, you can get your own domain. So our domain here is myname@mindset.co.za, even though we host with Gmail. They pretty much all provide you with various boxes, inboxes that you can categorize your mail into. They pretty much all provide some level of virus filtering to make sure that people are not sending you attachments that have nasties in them. So yeah, there's actually very little difference now between sort of the proprietary email services like Microsoft Exchange and the online services.
Okay.
And that wasn't necessarily true 5 years ago, but I think it's more and more true now. And a lot of even medium to large organizations are migrating into the cloud for their mail services because it's just so much easier. I remember our Exchange server when we still had one, it was a lot of work to maintain and manage. It's quite a sophisticated piece of software. And if you don't have the skills inside your organization, it just makes a lot of sense to give it away to the people that do know what they're doing.
Okay. Is it also cheaper for an organization?
Well, yeah, because Gmail is free. If you want your own domain, of course, and you want to service the email requirements of an organization, there's a monthly fee. But I still don't think it even compares to the cost of having to buy a server, having to buy the Exchange or other email server software on it, and then having to maintain that server. One of the problems that we discovered really early on was how much email gets sent and how many attachments get sent and how big some of those attachments are. We were continuously running out of hard drive space. And so we'd have to add more hard drive space. And that is another cost, just adding more server capacity.
Okay. So the online ones are pretty useful. And you would
absolutely.
say,
Yeah. I would
for the
say
ordinary user, go with that.
absolutely. One of the historical downsides of cloud-based email like Gmail was that you weren't able to access it or work with it offline. But those kind of problems are pretty much solved. It's not as rich an experience as you probably will get with, say, Outlook or the Mac equivalent, but it's getting there. So yeah, for my money's worth, go with the cloud-based services. They're probably more than what you need at a fraction of the cost.
Okay. Now, you heard Dylan referring to too many attachments, attachments that are too big. And we also know that attachments can often be the carriers of viruses and various other horrible, nasty things. But there seems to be another aspect of email that people don't like, and that is spam. What is spam?
Spam is basically any email that you get that you don't want from someone you don't know.
Oh, this is quite a lot of stuff that I don't want.
Yes, but if it comes from your boss, you might not want it, but it is somebody that you know. You can't really classify that as spam. And there's millions and millions and millions of spam messages every single hour of every single day go out onto the internet. But thankfully, most of the email clients that we use, both online, the cloud-based ones as well as the local ones, are getting really good at managing spam for us. set up a few simple rules, and you probably will find that you won't have to deal with many spam messages ever again.
Okay,
Yeah.
simple as that.
Pretty much.
And if you do get a few creeping in,
if you get the
you
odd
just-
message that you consider as spam because you don't want it and it's from someone you don't know, you can flag it as, well, this message is spam. And the next time you get a message from that same address, your email client will automatically file it away for you in the spam box.
Good.
And you can even set rules in most of the clients to just every month delete that spam box. I don't tend to do that. I just have a quick scan through my spam just in case, one legitimate email snuck its way in there. But by and large, you can just scan through and say, oh, okay, this is all spam, delete it all, and you never have to worry about it again.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, most of you cat learners don't need to think of this yet, but it's a good idea to start practicing this. And that is sending emails in the workplace. Now, there are a couple of things that you really shouldn't do when sending emails to someone in your organization at work. Dylan?
Well,
No-nos.
We've mentioned the one that's probably one of my bugbears, sending these enormous attachments.
Yes.
All that it does is it clogs up my email box and it just takes away all the space. There's very little reason nowadays for you not to be able to share a link to a document and work with the document in an online collaborative space like Google Docs. But even Microsoft has moved into that space with Office 365. So I think the days of sending around attachments, we must just relegate them to the bin of history. Not only does it take up precious mailbox space, but it's also a really inefficient way to work. Because now you send me a document that you want me to review. Fine. So I take the document, I download the document, I edit the document, I re-upload it to the mail that I send back to you. Now suddenly you've got 2 copies of the document and I've got 2 copies. We've got 4 copies of the same document. Whereas if we'd just used an online collaborative space, we would have a single copy with all of our changes tracked.
Yeah.
So for me, that's a big no-no. As far as possible, don't send these large attachments with your
I
your
get
emails.
that.
I think another one is the curse of the CC.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So you send out an email to me and 5 other people. And I respond to you and the same 5 other people. Think a little bit before you do that. Is it absolutely necessary for everybody to be involved in that conversation? If it is, by all means, send out the message and CC all the people in the conversation. But I guess the basic bottom line is just think before you automatically CC everybody. Can also sometimes land you in hot water. Because if you automatically CC everybody and you say something in the email that might be a little bit offensive to one of the people in the CC'd group, well, then you're going to get into trouble. But obviously the other thing that it does is if we're always CCing everybody in all of our mails, it just generates so much unnecessary email. One of the things that I apply when I manage my emails is if I have been CC'd, so the message hasn't been sent to me, I've just been in the CC line.
Yes.
I'll read it, but I'm not going to respond. Because what CC means is I'm just copying you in for information. I don't expect a response. But very often people in the workplace will CC you and they get offended when you don't respond. If you expect me to respond, put me in the to line. Don't put me in the CC line.
Okay, that's a very good rule of thumb. So if there are 2 people involved that need to respond, they should go in the to line in your email.
Yeah.
The rest that need this for information, get their names in the CC line. And of course, we won't even talk about BCC.
We won't even talk about blind carbon copy.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Anything else about email that you think is important not to do?
Well, I think not having a subject line is just rude. Every email should have a subject line, and it should have a short, to the point, concise, and accurate subject line. One of the things that spam emails do is they play around with the subject line to make you want to read it. Don't do that to your work colleagues. If you've got an email that is about topic A, put that into the subject line so that when I'm scanning through the hundreds of emails that we get every day, I can make some decisions about which I need to address now and which can wait.
Yes.
Don't try and trick me into responding to your email because you think it's urgent when actually it's not that urgent. So put something in the subject line, but put something accurate in the subject line as well. And I think a lot of that also goes into the body of the email. There are few things more tiresome than getting this enormous long email, pages long, and it doesn't say anything. Or it says one thing that could have been said in one sentence. The other thing that I try and do with all of my emails, don't know that I always get it right though, is put the main point up front. So very much like writing for the web. You put the main point up front, first line, and then you elaborate on it below. So that if somebody is pressed for time and they don't have time to read my enormously long email, they can still get the gist of what I need them to get just by looking at the first line or the first paragraph. So kind of write in that inverted pyramid style where the most important stuff goes on top and then you elaborate.
That's a good tip.
Afterwards. But then also just, again, use simple, clear language. Don't try and be fancy. Don't try and use all the business jargon you can possibly think of when one or two words will say the job or do the job satisfactorily. Don't try and be clever, or don't try and be more clever than you are. Just write clear, simple business English. Most people will appreciate it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can also leave out the things like the smiley faces and
yes.
the curly font because that you can do at home with your pals. But in the workplace, you don't do that. You kind of stick to the signature that is expected of you. With the branding that is expected in the workplace. And one of the things that I like about using a subject line is that it really helps me to search for an email
Very good.
again later when I need to.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
thanks to Dylan, we've had a look at quite a few interesting things about emails, email applications. And on that note, we'll say goodbye for now.